guys, welcome back guys. Thank you guys for tuning in to another episode on this shed build. On this episode we're gonna be focusing on getting our ridge beam put or a ridge board. Now I'm not really certain on the difference between the two. I think a beam supports weight and a board's just a placeholder or a space holder. And because this is a shed, if I'm not mistaken, I think this would be considered a ridge board. So we're gonna get our ridge board put up. I found the center on this wall and I found the center on this wall. Now, like I said, I'm not a professional, guys, so my center on this wall is a hair wider than my center on this wall. So we're gonna still go with the flow. We'll make any adjustments as we get to it if we need to. So with that being said, guys, what I've done was I'll get up on a ladder and explain it to you. So what I've done thus far was, after I found my center, what I did was I got 3 pieces of 2x4 and I held one here directly on the center. I held one here with my hand, and while I held one here in the center, I got this piece and nailed this piece down. And I also nailed this piece right beside it. And the reason that I nailed these 2 pieces here with this opening here of a 2x4 is so that I can put my I'm not sure what they call it, but my board here to hold up my ridge beam. I saw the technical name for it, but I forgot it just that fast. But I got that to put up my to hold up my ridge beam. So we're gonna get that ridge beam holder put up, and I'm gonna show you guys what I've made. So guys, here is the holder that I made. And after doing all of my calculations, this is the holder that I made. And the whole point of this holder is actually supposed to, it gives me the exact spacing that I need as far as height, but it also gives me a place to actually sit my 2x8 into to hold it there while I put in the rafters. And basically what it's going to look like is, once you get your 2x6, your 2x8 put up there for your ridge beam, it's going to slide in between those blocks just like that. And it's just gonna hold your ridge beam up until you're able to get all your rafters put in. So with that being said, guys, I'm gonna put you guys on a time lapse while I go ahead and get all the measurements that I need, put my 2 ridge beams together, because I don't have a full piece. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just cut it down. I think this is like a 12-foot piece. This first piece is a 12-foot piece, and that's a 10-foot piece, or I mean 8-foot piece. I'm gonna just put the 2 together and try to get my, where the 2 go together at, I'm gonna try to make it land on a joist or a rafter, and I'll just end up just putting double rafters and nailing them together just to make it strong. So with that being said, guys, I'm gonna go ahead and put you guys on a time lapse while I go ahead and get my measurements, while I go ahead and put the ridge beam together temporary. right, guys, so what you guys just watched me do on the time lapse was rig up a concoction so that I can get that ridge beam put up. Ridge beam, ridge board, whatever it is. And what I did was I just put 2 boards together, and I already have my 16 on center marked out. So all I have to do is when I cut my my rafters, all I have to do is just set it in place. I think that's about it, guys. I'm about to call it a night because I'm tired. And that was a lot of shimmying back and forth for one person, you know. But I'm gonna stand back and give you guys a view further back so you're able to see what we have so far. And the only thing next is to start putting up our rafters after that. That's basically what we got. I'll be back with y'all another day. We're gonna start throwing some rafters up. All right, guys, I'm gonna see if I can explain this kind of fast. So here, this basically, like I said, this is gonna show you how to do the calculations to get your common rafters as far as how long it needs to be and everything like that. So I intend for it to be a 512 pitch, so 512 slope. I know that, you know, in order to, when you start building your rafters and putting them up, you're going to have a rafter on one side, and then on the other side, which is over here, is going to be another rafter. So half of my building is going to be 6 foot wide, because my entire building is going to be 12 foot. So half of that is going to be 6 foot. So if we go from 6 foot, which is, if we go from this mark here to this mark here, we know that that's going to be 6 foot. So that's a known. And the other known is we're going to do a 512 pitch. So in order to find our rise, we go to this formula here. Rise equals slope time run. So we know that it's 6 foot, and we have a 512 pitch. So all we would do is, since it's 72 inches, we go ahead and turn that back into feet, take away that 12, and that'll just leave us with 6. So we have 6 different increments in this space between here to here. So we take that 6 and multiply it by the 5, and that'll give us 30. That 30 is going to be our rise. And basically what that is from this point here, how high we're going to rise till we get to our ridge board, ridge beam here. So that's going to be 30 inches. And that story pole that I built, that little holder jig that I built that off of this number here. And you can plug in your number. You don't, like I said, you don't have to use my number, 512, 612, whatever it is. If you do a 612, you would do 6 times 6 instead of 6 times 5. So you plug your number there. Next thing would be Pythagorean theorem. So Pythagorean theorem is a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So in this case, our a squared is here, our b is here, and c is what we don't know. C is our unknown, which is here. So if we plug in our numbers, 72 inches squared is our a, 30 inches squared is our b, 72 squared is going to be 5,184. 30 squared is going to be 900. So if we add those numbers together, we'll get 6,084. So we still have to do the square root of that 6,084. Square root of 6,084 is 78 inches. So in my case, when I start building my rafters and cutting my rafters out, from this point here to this point here to here should be 78 inches. And like I said, my calculations are exact, but the way I built my building is not currently exact. So some of my boards are 78 inches, some of them are 78 and a quarter. You know, they kind of vary because it's not exact. So that 78 is just gonna give me a roundabout number. Now you might be at a different case where everything you built was pretty much exact and to the point. So you may be fine, but I just had to alternate some of mine and adjust some of mine for what I have. So basically that's how you find your common rafters. For me, you could plug in the same calculation here. I didn't do this because I ended up cutting my rafters after the fact. I didn't cut them before, but you can cut them before, and to find these calculations would be the same. If you want your overhang to be 6 inches, you put 6 inches here, and that'll be your A. For this dimension here, most times if your top plate is like a 2x4, this dimension here will be 2.5, because it'll be 2.5 rise, so that you can accommodate the width of a 2x4, which is 2.5 inches by 3.5 inches. So if your top plate is a 2x4, this number here pretty much is going to be 2.5. So you know this number 2.5, this number is going to be whatever you want that overhang to be. So if you want that overhang to be 6 inches, if you want that overhang to be a foot, that's what that number would be. And you would just plug it in just how we plug this in. So this would be your A, this would be your B, and this would be your C. So to get that number, all you would do is plug it in and use the same formula. I'm not going to do it because I didn't do my rafters like that. I ended up doing my rafters after I put my sheathing on. But that's basically how you do the calculations. If you got any questions, go ahead and shoot me in the comments, or do however you want to let me know. You can let me know. I can help you with it, or if I did something wrong, let me know. It's all right. But we're going to get back to the program of me basically explaining the second method that I did. All right, now you have a flush cut. Now that you have a flush cut, what you want to do is, whatever side you decide to do your angle on, I use this side. So what you want to do, this is a pivot point, and you just take your speed square, put it on the edge of the point that you want to reference. So we're referencing this edge, and once you put it on that pivot point, what you want to do is, this bottom line here is for the common rafters. So if you do like a 4/12 pitch, you'll line it up with this mark. If you do a 5/12 pitch, you'll line up this mark. 6/12 pitch, you'll line up that mark. So the bottom marks are what you're going to use for your pitch, or your common rafters. So then you're going to take this, pivot on that reference point till you get to 5. When you get to 5, all you got to do is subscribe your line. Once you have your line subscribed, that's your angle you need to match up with your ridge board or ridge beam. Then all you want to do is cut this out. And after you have that cut out, you do the same thing for your ridge, for your bird's mouth. For your bird's mouth, what you want to do is, you want to hook it the same way. You want to pivot it back to the 5 common rafter, just like how you did on the other end. Subscribe your line. Once you have your line subscribed, just like that, what you want to do from here is, so I'm using 2x4 for my top plates. So what you want to do is, you want to get this mark, and you want to line your speed square up with the line that you subscribe on the edge, on the 90-degree point. Then you want to get this mark and line it up with 3.5 inches, because a 2x4 is not 4 inches away, not 4 inches wide, it's 3.5 inches wide. So you want to get it, line it up perfectly. And the whole point of this is to draw a 90-degree angle. So if you put it at 3.5 inches, which you can see that on the ticks on the speed square, right there is 3.5 inches. What I'm gonna do is subscribe a line. Let me see if I can. We're at 3.5 inches right there. subscribe that line. And all you want to do is you want to cut this out. And to cut that out, you just use the circular saw, just like I did. You'll run it here. Once you cut it to that as close to that line as you can get it, where them two lines meet across together, you come to this side, cut it there. And after you get it as close as you can get, if you want a clean cut without actually cutting the X, you can use a jigsaw or a hand saw and cut the rest of the way out. And that'll be your bird's mouth for the angle that you got. And this angle here is the same as that angle there. From this point to that highest point is going to be the same length. From this point to that highest point is going to be the same length. And the distance away from where you cut your bird's mouth at, if you remember what I just explained it in the calculations part, you would measure from there all the way to here, and that distance will be the distance that you put your tick. So I think we had 78 inches, a little over 78 inches. So what you're gonna do, you're gonna take your tape measure and measure 78 inches, put your tick, and that tick is gonna be your reference point, just like you did at the top. You take that tick, you use it as a reference point, you pivot it until you get to 5 on the common. When you get to 5 on the common, you scribe your line, and that'll put you at a 5/12 pitch. That's basically it, you know, as far as the calculation part and laying it out and marking it out. And all you do is cut that out like I just said and test fit it. Now when you do the calculations, sometimes you're gonna have some deviation, so you might have to trim a little here or make your mark just a hair smaller. Okay, you know, you can always trim something off, you can never add it back. So always remember, you know, cut a hair a little bit more than what you think you need, and you always can take away less. All right guys, so basically to freehand this out, what I'm gonna use is I use this block here as a holder. I take a couple of clamps, you just set it up on the ladder. Make sure y'all be safe, you know. Set it up there, take a couple of clamps, and this is just for my safety, you know. You don't really need all of it, but hey, better to be safe than sorry. Just use this one, and all I'm gonna do is set this up here so I'll be able to grab it once I get on the ladder. So first what we're gonna do is we can just climb up the ladder. All right, now that we up on the ladder, we're gonna grab the 2x4 block that I grabbed, and we're gonna grab this clamp. I like this clamp because you can push it where you want, and you can squeeze it, and it tightens up, so it's much easier to use. So I want this block somewhere in the neighborhood of somewhere around here. And if I put it somewhere around halfway on this is the top, well, this is the second top plate, this is the first top plate. I want my rafters to pretty much cover just this top plate and maybe a little of this second top plate, not much, so I can have something to attach my siding to. So if I put this block maybe about halfway of my second top plate, it should just cover just a hair of it. So take the clamp, so put it about halfway, take the clamp, tighten it down. And now that you have that tightened down, what you have now is some place that you can sit your 2x6 on and hold it in place until you get ready to use it. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna set this clamp up as well, because we're gonna use this clamp to hold a 2x6 in place so we can mark it out. So I set this, just set it right here, just so I can get to it easy. And I take this one and put this one, I just hang this one here. I just have that one for security because I know I can tighten that one down really tight. Those hand ones, you can't really get those but so tight, but they're good enough to use. But just for safety reasons, since I'm on a ladder and I don't want it to fall on me, and we're kind of high up. So you want to take this piece and you want to just position this piece somewhere and pretty much what you're doing with this piece is you just imagining that it's a straight line all the way to the end. And once you have it, it's a little tricky, guys, so just take your time. I think right there is perfect, right there. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this clamp and I'll run it here. Just to hold that 2x6 in place. All right, guys, I got it up here. It's not the safest thing ever, but I got it up here for now. And all you want to do is now is I'm gonna go on the back side of this board and mark it out, and then I'll go to the top and mark it out. So for the back side, you don't need anything for a reference line. All you need is a pencil. Reposition my ladder. Just come around to this side. Just climb on up. What you want to do is you just want to mark here. And you want to just hold your pencil flat along the top. Do your mark all the way around. And just go to the, rub your pencil to the end of the board. All right, now we got that mark. Now we're gonna mark the top. Now the top is gonna be a little tricky because these walls are already 10 foot tall. The top is like 30 inches. And this ladder is only like a 8-foot ladder. And I'm a biggin', if you get what I mean. I'm a hefty boy. It's a little sketch at the top of this ladder. All right, and for this one, you're gonna need a reference. So I'm gonna grab this 2x4 and make sure it's long enough and wide enough, because as you can see, we got a gap right there. So make sure it's long enough and wide enough that you're able to actually get the full length. So this should be fine. And make sure you got your pencils or your pens, whatever you're gonna use to mark it, because you don't want to have to keep climbing up and down this ladder if you don't have to. I'm gonna have to go one more step on this ladder, and I don't like to be all the way up here on this ladder. It's kind of flimsy on this dirt, but we here. And basically what you can do is to test it, it's gonna come a little shy, which theoretically is all right. We're not gonna worry too much about that. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna put the 2x4 flat and take your pencil, marker, whatever you have, and subscribe your line. Now of course this is not going to be the length that you need, because you're referencing a 2x4. The bottom might be okay, but it's not going to be an overall length you need, because you're taking away all of this. So now that you have that mark, you just can come on down the ladder. You don't need to be up here on this end anymore. And I can remove all the clamps, and I'll go ahead and do that. And now we have a template. Just cut it out on the lines and we got a template. But you need to make sure that template is the right length. So you should be good to go, if you understood what I meant. So just take your speed square. After you take the board down, take your speed square, put it on the line, line it up. Now you know the angle that you need. Once you find that angle, you move that pivot point back to the edge of the board. Instead of that space that we had that we used the 2x4 to mark our line, move it back to the edge of the board for your reference line. And that's all you have to do. Use that same angle and cut it out. Cut your bird mount out. Now you got your template. So I'm gonna just go ahead and take this down, and I'll just put you guys on a time lapse and we're gonna go ahead and cut them all out and get the rest of our boards cut out. All right, guys, I just recorded this, but I ended up having to record it again because I just realized that my camera wasn't actually pointed at what I was talking about. So you wouldn't even know what I was talking about. So I'm gonna just cut that part out of the video and just add this one in. So what I meant about the reference point was, here is gonna be a reference point that you use with that 2x4. So if you just take away this line, if you take your speed square, find out what that angle is, transcribe that angle using this reference point. Now this beam should be at the edge of that board, which the bottom was. Now the top will be at the edge of the board, and you're just adjusting the bottom. So if you just use your reference point here, after you find out what this angle is, and you use that just with the speed square, just how I explained, cutting out the angles with the speed square. If you had your calculations, you take the speed square, you line it up, and see where your line at marks up with the common. Of course I was going to be 5 because we're doing a 5/12 pitch. But if you didn't know that, all you would have to do was find out what that angle is, see where it lands on your common line, your common scale, and that'll be the same angle that you put here. And you just cut that out for your bird's mouth. It's pretty simple. You just cut it out along these lines, and if you want to use your speed square and draw that same angle at the top, it's going to be the same angle here. So you put that angle where it line up with your common, you draw your line all the way up, you line it up here, you draw your line all the way out where they X and intersect at. All of that is what you're going to cut out. And once you cut that out, now you have a full template, and you can use that template to cut out the rest. But remember now, when you cut it out, before you start cutting the rest of your boards, go back on your ladder and put it up there again just to test fit it, because you know you hate to cut out 13 boards all the way down and then realize that it wasn't right. So sacrifice one before you sacrifice all. Once you know that one will work, then you go ahead and cut them out with the rest of them. So I'm gonna put you guys on the time lapse and go ahead and get these boards cut out. Be right back. All right, guys, so I got all this side cut, as you saw on the time lapse. The reason that I was taking so long with that time lapse was I was just making sure after I cut out one, what I was doing was I left my template at the front, because that's where I pretty much started. And I used the next piece that I cut, and I verified that they all still fit. And when they didn't fit perfectly, I tried to adjust them. That's what all I was doing, trying to go back and forth, making sure that they all fit pretty much snug. And it's all right if they don't fit perfectly, because I bought these hangers. I got these hangers right here, and as you can see, the lip on these hangers is very wide, so it grabs a lot. So if you put it, just imagine if this was a 2x6. This is 2x4, but if this was a 2x6, the lip of that hanger, it grabs a whole lot of that end of that board. So if it doesn't fit flush, it's okay. We still have a lot of support. So I'm gonna put you guys on a time lapse. Oh, all right, guys. So pretty much, I got pretty much all the rafters up except for the ones that go here. And the reason that I'm holding off on those is because what I didn't notice was after I walked back a little bit, I can tell that I had a little sag type in my roof where this middle section where I got the two boards coming together, it's kind of like sagging down, and I didn't pay attention to it. So I'm gonna wait till I get a hand or someone to help me so they can hold that section up while I nail it down and put those rafters up. But I think I'm done for today. You guys saw in the time lapse, basically I got all the rafters put in, and you know, my cuts aren't the best, the angles aren't the best, but guess what, it's good enough. Once I put those brackets on, man, it's gonna hold perfectly strong. And eventually I'll get the hurricane brackets and put on those rafters on along the top plate. But this is what I have thus far, and I'll get back to you guys when we start finishing these rafters and putting on the sheathing on the top. All right, guys, so that's basically it. What you're looking at is how the shed currently looks. In the next video, we're gonna go ahead and finish up putting on the rest of the rafters in and getting everything set up so that we're able to start shingling this roof and getting everything closed in. Thank you guys for watching and tuning in. Make sure y'all go ahead and like, subscribe, comment, and guess what? Peace.